Deze is housekeeper Austin Jeff.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss, and we got another one for you. And we got one more time back for the third part. We couldn't let this go long without having you back. Let's keep it going. The man, the myth, the legend, Richard Plowden. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. We have our suite in the Sport Karate Rehab, and we're hanging out here.
That's right. That's right. Sport Karate Rehab. Hey, it's a family thing too. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this is all Travis's. Travis's baby. This is all
that is true.
It's intervention. It just took a while.
Love it.
It was funny if you remember that, Jeff, when he brought it up to me, like, hey, do you want to do this? I just thought, all right, it's just gonna be a couple of guys talking. No one's gonna listen, right?
Yeah,
no one's actually gonna listen. You sure you want to do that? Like, yeah, we'll see. But that's what Travis is great at. He's got always behind the scenes, and has got a vision that's a little bit more beyond what the rest of these main thinkers like me can do, right?
He's a great guy. I love my nephew.
He is. He's awesome. One of the things that we've kind of been going back and forth with and talking about, we kind of did your story. We did the timeline, and now we're kind of just like into some things that we kind of felt like we left off on, and also just some fun stuff. Because you know what, we told your story, but also I want to hear some fantasy stuff. Some, hey, what if this happened? Hey, what if, who's your favorite? Like different things like that. That's what we want to hear. So we're going to get down to just some fun stuff today. But I guess it was the last episode of Fist Kicks and Flicks, right? And so, yes, hold on a sec. All right. So, Gene and Joe are talking and sharing with Angel about their experience growing up at the Christ School, right? So, and trying to just explain the culture there, right? And there he is. There's Mike Gibbs, one of the guys that's in these stories, all right? And man, it's fun because I got to see a lot of the greatness that was Plowden Karate, right? And really in a lot of ways, it was SBS, but I want to know what the vibe was, like what is it? Because some people are really good at, being coaches for other teams, right? Which you've had the opportunity to do and coach other people up to be that champion. And some people are really good at being instructors and getting their people to be one of those people, right? But you've been able to do it all. You've been able to person to teach them to where they are as a black belt and as a man and as a woman and to be better people. But then they can go on to be champions just straight from there. If you know what I'm saying, like some people don't necessarily teach that, but they're great coaches. You do it all. So what was the vibe like?
It was a labor of love, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to be a good instructor and produce good students. That was really my goal. When I decided to open a school in 1988, I wanted to be able to have folks who could do better than I did. And of course it started with just a small group on 7 Mile Road here in Detroit with, again, Eugene, Travis, Skia, Willie Hicks was much younger than them, but Willie came to me when he was 5. So, if I went to a tournament and happened to lose, Willie would cry. That was my that was my guy.
Whoa.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was.
Yeah.
We were that type, So it was just a situation where I tried to figure out what helped make me a success, and then see what we could do to replicate it. So there are certain rules because people have different levels of flexibility, different levels of strength, different levels of speed, power, but it's the intelligence that can be replicated, right? So you teach rules, what to do, what not to do in certain situations. And back then I really used to be crazy, because I was raised in a crazy martial arts environment, and I was kind of nuts. So I really pushed those kids. I lock them in school, lock them in the school with me, and their parents turned them over to me. So it was wild.
Wait. What does lock in the school mean?
Lock the door and we're training.
The-
We're going to sit back and work out. Now, afterwards, we go get pizza. Afterwards, we go to the comic book store and that type of thing. But, I work those dudes.
Well, wait a minute. I'm trying to wrap my head around the purpose of the lock, because I can't imagine they would have ever just felt like they could just duck and leave.
I didn't want people to come in.
That's what I was wondering.
I didn't want any witnesses.
Okay.
And I have a couple of my guys on here. Robert Perry. Robert grew up across the street from me. Literally, I've known him since he was about 6 and I was 8. And then if you guys reference Mike Gibbs, Mike is on here also. Both of them had different levels of experience with the craziness. Rob had a lot of it because growing up together, I was really nuts. And Mike came around, and I can tell the story of Mike Gibbs. Mike was already a black belt when he started coming around, but I wasn't that crazy about taking people from other schools and things. So I had him come and watch my classes for a couple of months before I even let him get on the floor.
I think he did mention that. I don't know if he mentioned that it was that long. Oh, wow. So wait a minute. He just came and just watched classes for a couple of months?
Yep.
So he knew what he was getting into.
Yeah. And that showed me some level of dedication because not to put business out there, so to speak, but his reputation at that point in time with other schools wasn't great. As he just said, I kept telling him to come back. I don't want headaches. Right? I want I have enough problems of my own. But he turned out to be my guy. I tell the story of, we were having a team fight on a kickboxing card in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we walk in and Mike's with us, and he looks and he says, "Mr. Plowden, we the only black people here." I said, "Okay, that's my man, Mike Gibbs." Yeah,
that's good. That's good.
That's classic. That was worth it right there. Just hear that.
That's my dude.
What's up, Will? Oh man. So just so some people, because man, there's so many great competitors that just came out of your school, I mean, and there's some that some people think were always your students. Like a lot of people don't know that Jermond, was one of those that came over, right?
Yep.
Jermond,
Jermond was that premier martial.
Right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just saying, Jermond, Willie, they were like my age, and then you had the ones ahead, which were like Travis Ski, and that whole group. And then there's even more after that, the Stones and so many people that were actually, they're around that same age too. So go ahead.
Richard Stone could have been a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
He got in.
Yes.
Richard Stone was right on the cusp of being a superstar. His sister Jane did well. I know she won the Tornado Nationals one year. She would go to the Super Grands and do well. I always loved the Stones, but Jane Stone took a greyhound to a tournament in South Carolina once, and that just told me about her dedication. It's got to be a labor of love because nobody's getting rich doing this crazy stuff.
Right. Right.
Have you ever taken a bus to a tournament?
What made you ask me that?
Because you just mentioned it.
Yes. Yeah. Tournament in Cleveland, Ohio would have been 1978 or 79. And I really wanted to go, didn't have a ride, didn't have a car. And I go to the Greyhound station. Later, I found out that my dad tried to stop me. He called the Greyhound station and had me paged, so that I wouldn't go. Listen, I didn't know how far the Greyhound station was from the tournament, right? Didn't know how I was going to get back home. Didn't have a return schedule. I was just nuts, but it just so happened that a very good friend of mine who still comes, he comes over to my school now on Friday nights and watches sparring, Grandmaster Larry Green. Larry happened to be there at the tournament, and he gave me a ride home. Yep.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
I was a nut.
But
Yeah,
if we're
I
young,
love it.
that's why I tried to explain it to other people. I said, well, what else are you gonna do? Like, if you're, what else? This is the sport and the activity that you love. What else are you gonna do? Right?
That's
Like,
it.
I understand if you're like, listen, I can't juggle all of this at one time because I've got this to do that really
Right.
needs my time and energy, and I want to do this. That makes sense. Now you have a decision to be made. But if you don't, you've made the decision that this is the thing you want to do, and you identify you want to be a champion, then you can do that. Like, we were just talking about that. It was funny. Troy Sexton was trying to get home from a tournament one time, and I was like, dude, get on the mega bus. And he's like, what's the mega bus? And I'm like, this is perfect, because they don't have stations. Mega buses don't have stations. They're just like, oh, meet at the corner of Jackson and whatever, and then you go there, and it is not a good situation, right? And they just drop you in the middle of nowhere. They just drop you anywhere, right? But if you're trying to go to a tournament and you're gonna do whatever it takes, they'll do whatever it takes.
That's it. You mentioned
Yeah.
Troy Sexton. No, Troy really could have been good. Troy had another. Troy had another upside. I think that he didn't reach.
Hear that, Troy?
Sorry, Troy. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, man.
All good.
It's all good. Oh man. Oh yeah. That sounds like me trying to get from Mexico back to over the state. So I've been before.
What did you do with that?
Well, I went to a tournament, and the promoter was supposed to be taking care of me, and he's like, well, all right, we'll get you on a taxi, and then when you get there, get on this bus, and then get on this shuttle, and then we'll go across the border, and then we have this other shuttle that'll meet you there. I did like 5 different types of trips just to get to Tucson. It was wild.
And somehow
Like,
you ended up with the
right.
Border Patrol in Tijuana and got stuck there.
It was a little wild. I mean, and the craziest part is when they stop the bus and they take everyone off, and they have their guns and they search everything. They search you, and then you get back on. Yeah, that was intense. I was like, all right.
As long as you got to keep your clothes on, man.
That's right. Yeah, I got to keep my clothes on.
Could have been the worst type of search.
It could have been. Oh man. All right. So Robert Hilton has a good question. How did you transition from fighter to coach?
I don't know how much of a real transition it was, Robert, because while I was fighting, I was still, I had my students, and I was still making an attempt to coach some. I love to teach, right? So I never even looked at myself really as a coach. I've always been an instructor. And that's been important to me too, because, most of my students would refer to me as Mr. Plowden before coach. The whole coach thing came about sometimes in the late 70s, early 90s, so to speak. But again, Rob, I wanted to create a system, a way that I thought I could help people be better with the do's and don'ts for this sport. So it just happened organically.
Awesome. I love that.
Can I make an observation?
Sure.
So, because Jeff mentioned something. He says, some people have been really good at being, coaches of teams, and some people are fantastic at being, instructors and building people up to be national contenders. And then someone takes them from there. But you've been able to do both. And I believe it's because you've never stopped having your hand in kind of anything, right? So there are some people, you know what? I'll use my own family. My brother, I believe, is more of a talented martial artist than myself. And for those, there's not a lot of people who still know who my brother is, but in martial arts, but they remember, oh, yeah, he was a decently talented martial artist. He was more talented than I was. He should not teach anyone.
Yeah.
He should not, right? He isn't like this is to tell you, like back in the 90s, Jeff. Remember when people used to do the double leg? I think I told you this. My brother was phenomenal at this. It was like Adam and Anthony Atkins. It was like they were like that. So I'm like, yo, I'm struggling with this, Adam. Like, how do I do this? And this is his response. I don't know what to tell you, man. You must just suck or something, because I don't know. I can do it. I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, like, clearly you have two eyes. You see what I do. I don't know what's wrong with you, right? So no, that person should not be teaching classes, right? But if you have somebody that maybe, right, is like, listen, I can take all the heat you want to give me. Maybe a person with that temperament could be a coach, but probably not, right? But you've just been able to always have your hand in everything. And so there's never just like, I'm this type of coach. That's just what I do, right? It's about the person you have in front of you, or that you're
literally understanding that everyone's different. You
and
know,
learning
now
styles.
the ability to talk and motivate is one thing. We talked the last time about coaches that yell and scream, that type of thing. If I ever raised my voice to Morgan Plowden, she'd shut down. It'd be over. Right?
Mhm.
That's just not her personality. You know, there's some things, I see the Jotty's on here. Some things
Yeah.
I could say to him that might not be appropriate for a G-rated movie, right? But it'll get him going, and he'll respond to it. And I've been fortunate too, you know, to be able to coach a Brian Plimple. We mentioned Jason Grenier, Ross Levine, Jotty Tension. You know, I've had some superstars more or less fall in my lap. And the good thing about that is being able to take some of my own homegrown people and have them be influenced by those folks.
Yeah,
So
that's
the voice that they hear is not just mine; it's from veterans who we have as part of the situation too.
Yep.
So that makes a difference. Avery often talks about how lucky he was to be around Ross and Jotty as he was making an attempt to establish himself as a competitor. Morgan's the same way. Being around Ross and Jotty made a huge difference. So it's not just my voice that they hear, but it's the individuals around us too.
I think you're 100% right on. And even just in any karate instructor listening to this who brings, you know, more than, 10 students to a tournament understands you can't be everywhere. All right. Even if you're like, yeah, I'll go and coach you, you can't actually say that with certainty that you will be able to do that, because you might need to be over in ring 3, but then in ring 17, all right, you got to be there at the same time. So you can't actually say, yes, I 100% will if you're the only guy. So, but what people need is they need to have your voice or whoever's voice echoed throughout. Just that verbiage needs to be echoed.
The same
throughout.
language. That's it.
Now, speaking of that language, I've mentioned this a lot. I listen to coaches more than I listen to anybody else, right? I'm looking at fighters. I'm listening to coaches. I'm looking this way. I'm not listening to anything over here. I'm hearing this, right? So you were coaching Willie Hicks. It's 2016. It's Kumite Classic, which should have been a much more attended event, right? It wasn't. They were giving out a whole lot of money. Just didn't pan out that way. That's okay.
Bill Viola is a great promoter.
He is pretty good dude, right?
Yep.
So, I just listen, and sometimes there's like gold. People don't understand this. Sometimes there's just absolute gold that coaches will say that if you weren't right there, it's a missed moment. You'll never get it back. All right. And you don't really say anything to Willie. You don't tell him you don't tell him what to do. Nothing at all. You looked at him and you said, we need to create some magic right here. And he just went out of his mind. And I'm like, how did this? And it was like, it wasn't about who he needed to fight. You already knew it was like a near impossible task. Right. And then The game plan it had already happened, right? It had already taken place. There was no strategy. Hey, make sure this is what we're going to do. I don't know if you remember. Remember, we talked about this. You're going to see this when this happens, and all that stuff is so important. But that you didn't have any of that conversation. It was just, you were just amping them up with like a couple of words. And I've never forgotten that moment, because I watched his performance and I am like, I don't know how he fought Raymond Daniels, right? And I'm like, I don't know how he's pulling this out, but he is pulling this out. This is amazing, right?
If you look at Willie's record, Willie's record versus Raymond, he has a couple of victories.
There's some people who have surprising records against Raymond Daniels that you wouldn't expect, right? And yeah, Ray's going to be probably your toughest fight because Ray is Ray, right? But there are some people that just, they've gotten some victories on them. They've gotten a W, which if you get a W on them, that's great. Everybody takes L's in this sport. Everybody
That's right.
does, right?
Right.
But if you can get a W on him, that's you'll talk about it for a while.
The thing is with Willie is like, it's not just Raymond, it's also Trevor. Like you have, like, who else has is able to fight both of those guys good, right? It's they're completely different. It's like,
right.
It's weird. It's like, okay, I can fight Trevor well, I can't fight Raymond well, right? Oh, I can fight Raymond, I can't fight. I mean, yeah.
Let me tell you this though. Both of them, or I should say, Willie and Askia fought Trevor Grand Championship matches at America. And this is when it was NBL. And our strategy was, because, Trevor's a big, fast guy. Our strategy was, okay, the first 15 seconds, I just want you to run. Just move. Because both of them are little guys, right? I said, after 15 seconds, he's going to start overextending. And then I'm going to say go, and we're going to go. And both of them beat him.
Wow.
Listen, as the resident kicker, I'm going to tell you that's 100% accurate. And 100%
well, the thing is this, Alex, what we teach is part of the so-called Plowden system is kickers hate to do what? What do they hate to do? They hate to miss.
Yeah. Yep.
So the key is
I understand that they're going to go now. Like I might, if I know I'm going to miss and I place it here, that's one thing. But if I think I'm going to land and I reach for it and there's air, that's now I know, like, ooh, there's a high probability I'm going to get hit in about 1 second.
You make a kicker miss 4 or 5 times, what are they going to do?
They're going to overextend. And they're going to reach for something that's not.
They're going to punch.
And then
they're going to try to punch. They're going to get out of there. Yeah.
And then they start punching from distances they should never be at.
That's it. That's exactly it. Then they become frustrated, right? Yep. Especially if you score and you smile at them a little bit, not arrogantly, but just a little smirk.
Yeah. Yes. I know. And you know what's worse though is because they're a kicker. It's like when you're just a kicker, which those types of fighters don't exist anymore, by the way, right? It's like a drug because you're like, I just get one more kick, get one more kick, I'm back in it. You get 2 more kicks, and it's like they need the fix, right?
That's it. But the converse of that too is if you are a kicker, the key is to touch something. As long as you touch something, you have a frame of reference. Even if it's an arm, a shoulder, as long as you're touching something, you feel like, okay, I'm still engaged. I'm still in there. But once you make them start missing, it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it. All right. So before we're going to do a short switch and then we have another topic that we have, but Alex, you had talked about one of our friends, one of your good friends, Joe Boone, actually is having a MMA fight, right? This weekend.
Yeah.
Right?
Big one. Plug that stuff can you plug that stuff in the comments? So
I'm going to put the website up.
So we've had point fighters do full contact fights before, right? There's a lot of us have done like smoker fights, which are like, they're like exhibition fights. It's a full contact kickboxing match. Maybe you'll do a 3-round amateur match. Some of us have gone on to do pro fights, right? And be full on kickboxers. No, Joe decides he wants to do an MMA fight, right? Which I still think is kind of nuts, right? Guy wants to do it, and so he's been training for a long time, right? And he's really dedicated to this, and he's been walking around. I think, Joe, if you're listening in the chat, tell me. I think like 25 pounds under what he was at when he took the fight. That's just crazy. If I was 25 pounds less than I am now, maybe I would fight again. I don't know. So yeah, that's going to be this Saturday. If the links to the show where you guys can look at it, they're in the chat.
Yeah, speciationsports.com. And go, I think his code is Boone. So all capitals BOOONE. And go check it out. He said he's probably going to fight around 8 p.m. So I don't know. I'm guessing that's
Central.
Yeah, Central.
Central time.
So cool.
That's
all
a guy
right.
that wasn't a bad point fighter at all. He beat Willie Hicks at the Compete Nationals one year.
He knows. He talks about it.
He does.
Yeah,
he was young. He was young too, and he's like, and he thought, "This is it. I took this step. Now I'm going to take the next step, and now I'm going to take the next step." And he took a couple steps, but I believe the same thing. Like his talent really was higher than what his end result as far as a point fighter's resume should be. Right. So now Joe, like me, leads heavy on that right leg. But we're gonna do what we're gonna do based off of this. And like me, he ran into Jason Borelli one too many times. And Jason Borelli is the same way, and Jason Borelli will tell you you're not anywhere as good as me at this game, right? And he's the only one that you can look at and go, yeah, I know you're going to do that, and I have a big problem with this, right? But
that right leg was sick. Jason Borelli's right leg was crazy.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's
normal.
still amazing. I mean, Alex
can't coach that.
Alex still thinks he's the best, right? To you, he's the best kicker, right? Right?
He is the best.
Everyone has different opinions. I think he's I think he doesn't get brought up enough as one of the best all-around martial artists that there is.
I agree 100%. I don't think he gets brought up enough as one of the top fighters of all time. The nuts. Oh Lord have mercy. Donald Brady is listening. Talk about a guy who was one heck of a fighter. Donald and Ronald were special. It's a pleasure, Darren.
We've had Donald on the show. We've told many Donald stories.
We have. All right, so guess what? We're going to take a hard left, right, whatever way you want to, but we're going to tell some stories and do a lot of different things. But we brought on a special guest to share in some of those stories. So we got the great
Look at that gray hair.
This is going to be too good. So
for those of you guys listening and aren't watching live, and I don't know why you're not watching live, all right, we just brought in the legend Anthony Price for some more stories. Which, if you want to hear some great ones, go back and listen to the couple of shows we had Mr. Price on.
There are some stories that we can't tell. Those kids. We can't go there.
This is when
Mike Pompero.
And we just listened and we just let these guys share.
We had some great times together.
Well, let's hear some of them because we sit.
You guys have interviews. We're not gonna give up and volunteer too much. It's like the mafia. You got to dig a little bit because
it's a lot of dead. It's a lot of dead bodies somewhere.
I have one. I remember sitting in the bleachers, Mr. Price, with you and Terry Kramer, and I think we were at the Great Lakes Pro-Am. All right, we were at the Great Lakes Pro-Am, and we're sitting there, and I was talking with Jody about best teams ever, and you challenged me and said, "Nope, you got it wrong. Our team was undefeated Tell me about
Mhm.
that.
Well, we were the best. We were the best team. I mean,
You,
undefeated.
you
I
can't get
mean,
5 heavyweights, and think
yeah,
that people are just going to walk through. It's not 5 good heavyweights.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
the one thing that we had each other's back. That's if I had a bad day, then Richard came up with Terry or Nasty Billy. I mean, we always had each other's back. So that was the best team that I've ever been on in my life. I mean,
Nasty
just
used to tell the story that promoters would go to our coach Chuck Merriman and say, "No, you can't put 5 heavyweights out there. You have to put some lightweights out." He said, "Nope, 5 heavyweights. Deal with it."
well, I'm gonna say this. It happened at the Diamonds,
All right, let's hear it.
The
Let's go
American
for it.
Airlines. Remember that?
The
Remember that
American
American
Airlines
Airlines?
team.
Remember that? He had his 5 heavyweights, and I guess they wanted to switch the order at the last minute, and coach said no. Nope. So we didn't fight. Again,
Well,
I had this story before because I think you guys asked me this before, Jeff and Alex, that we had competed against those guys during the daytime eliminations anyway. So it wasn't about avoiding anybody because we weren't scared of anybody. I know I wasn't.
Oh no.
So I mean, so that's the record straight. We competed against those guys earlier that day. Actually, I ended up fighting Vernon Johnson for the ring
Yep.
that night. So, I mean, we didn't dodge anybody. We wanted to fight anybody, especially back in them days because I was a lot younger and crazier back then. So it didn't matter who I fought. So
Yeah, I've been on situations on teams where I've seen that happen too, where the coach said, "Listen, like you can't change the rules. You can't tell us we can't do this. We can't do this." I've been on situations where I've seen that happen as well. So definitely understand that situation. You can't change something right then, So
especially
And
not at the last minute.
Chuck Merriman was a master strategist, right? You talked a little while ago about coaching and things, and I think that the coaches that I've been blessed enough to have, primarily Chuck Merriman and Don Rodriguez, neither one of them were big on telling you what techniques to do, or when this person does this, you shift left and that type of thing. But they were very good as far as strategy goes, and Chuck Merriman knew the rules through and through.
Yep, he did. I gotta add Hector Santiago in there too because when I was
I
on
see.
Metro,
I didn't have Hector.
he's in that Mount Rushmore of coaches who have coached me. So I mean, but Chuck Merriman has to be one of the top guys because he put a bunch of guys together. I never dream of being on a team with a bunch of superstars. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and nobody really never heard of me outside of Ohio, in Kentucky and West Virginia until, Chuck Merriman, really Toki Hill.
Toki Hill. Yep.
Yeah.
Toki got us.
Yeah, got us together. I can remember, fighting Richard up in Dayton, Ohio, because I've always wanted to fight him because I was doing good in my area, and he was definitely doing good in his area and on a national circuit. And when I got a chance to fight him, he beat me in less than 20 seconds, pretty much. And it kind of messed my ego up a little bit because I thought I was one of the baddest dudes. But
no, it made your behind hungry, chump.
Right, but what I'm saying is it inspired me because one of the things that Richard did say, he said, "Look, man, you got a little talent. Why don't you come on out on the national circuit?" And then that's what really inspired me to come out. Seriously, that really did. I mean, it was a rough couple years. Don't get me wrong. I remember my parents taking me to the Battle of Atlanta, and I it was two rings going. It was two light heavyweight rings. Richard and them were over in the heavyweight division. They had two rings, and the light heavyweight division had two rings. I think I had like 6, 7 fights, lost, and still didn't place.
Wow.
And I never forget Alvin Plowder. I met Alvin Plowder there, and who else did I meet? Chip and some of the other guys, and Scorp was there. And it was like, hey, you got a little talent. So them guys really inspired me to come out on the circuit. So
and listen to what Anthony said. Each weight division had 2 rings.
Yep.
It was that.
Yes,
packed. It was crazy.
How many fighters in each one would you say there probably was?
God,
Oh,
he can answer that.
truthfully,
answer that.
50.
Yeah, it was a lot.
50.
Yeah, it was nuts.
And the thing is, in those, I mean, I wasn't there in the 80s. My first battle was 90, but even up until 96, 97, those numbers were like that. Like all my divisions were like, my first year that I won, I had 40 in my division, and that was, back, the divisions weren't all split, there, and you were just, 10 and under or 11 to 14, whatever. And it was big, and it was like that, everywhere. Every ring was just packed, huge.
Tournaments back then, though, everybody did tournaments, right?
Yes.
So you look up, and in the heavyweight ring, U.S. Heavyweight PKA champion John Jackson would be fighting. It was just nuts. Rick Rufus, he sat back and did some tournaments. He fought at the Bluegrass Fought Mafia one year. So
I got that on video too, Rich.
You got everything on video, Anthony.
Got that on video.
Yeah.
You need to release some of that video.
Oh no, Anthony has everything.
That's gold.
My wife keeps telling me that I need to put that stuff on DVD because I got a DVD burner and I need to do it. It takes a lot of time. It really does. I did some of it when I had my total knee replacement because I was off of work and everything for about four months. So I did put some of it. I was putting some of it on like a little Thursday night throwback kind of thing.
Yeah, that was.
I remember we were all loving that.
Yeah, I still got some more stuff that I need to get put out there, but I'm so glad, man. I was just blessed. I'm not gonna lie, I was blessed. The Creator blessed me, to be around, some great athletes and some great fighters, and not just Midwest, East Coast. I'm talking about in California, because the teams that we were on, we traveled the West Coast,
Germany.
Midwest, Germany, Russia.
Oh Lord, Sasha.
Okay, what's your most interesting international fighting experience?
I don't know. France, that was interesting.
Yeah, France. Yeah.
We all got. Our haircuts would match then.
Yeah.
Match what we did then. All of us had hair and decided to go and get our hair cut. And John Payton started crying. He said, "Oh, I look like Uncle Festus bald." It was me, Anthony, Hakeem Austin, Derek Panzer, and John Payton.
And don't forget about the dude from Pennsylvania, the AAU guy, Rich. Remember that dude?
Oh, yeah.
His name.
Doug Selcher.
Yeah, Doug Selcher. Yeah. The
Yeah,
AAU guy.
I had forgotten him.
Yeah, he was the only amateur there, remember?
Yeah.
He did pretty good. And don't forget Alberto Montron.
Oh, Berto.
Was Alberto there with us?
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
He was
Yeah.
the one that was translating.
Right, exactly.
Remember this?
Bonjour.
It was a guy dressed up in a woman's outfit.
Yeah.
Had a beard.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's someone that doesn't get brought up much. Is Alberto, man. And Alberto, wow, like explain
Yeah,
just.
Alberto was a talented fighter.
Yeah.
Joe Pina's camp, though. Joe
Yes.
Pina had some great fighters, men and women.
Yeah.
you know, in his camp. And Alberto was one of them. Alberto was dangerous.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
great fighter too, man. I'm just so
Yeah,
glad. Hey, Rich,
Anthony,
are you glad that you competed back in that era? If you had a chance to go back in time to be a fighter today, or go back in time and be the fighter that you used to be,
I'm
which one
going
would you
back.
pick?
I'm going
I'm
back.
going back too.
I'm not gonna, no,
Me too.
yeah, I'm not gonna play this game today.
Yeah, man. People ask me that all the time, and I tell them, "Boy, we were fortunate. We were blessed." You know. What about this? I don't want to take up a lot of time. What about when we was fighting at Madison
Go
Square
for it.
Gardens and we thought we had our squad, but we didn't have Nasty.
I told the
And,
story in the last show.
Yeah,
I told the
remember?
story, and
It's
hear him
not that-
coming down the tunnel.
it's
Yo,
called
yo, yo.
yo.
Yeah,
Boy,
our locker room went crazy.
yeah, I ain't gonna lie, man. I was so happy. I
Oh,
was.
come on.
I was so happy. I was like, Coach, can I go first? He was like, yes. You know, because I remember one time he put me last and I lost some points. I said, Coach, I need to go first. I need to get that out first. He was like, okay, all right, AP, you can go, you can fight first. You know, because I used to fight in the middle sometimes. And I was like, oh, I'd rather try to start it and try to make it easier for my other teammates. So yeah, it was incredible. And Rich, can you believe this? It's been almost 35, 40 years
I don't even
ago.
want to stop, Anthony. I don't even want to talk about it.
Man, our kids were little, you know,
Yep.
some of them wouldn't even, Boo Boo wasn't even born.
There we go. And she
Wow.
and Morgan were born the same year. So
Yes,
Brett
it's crazy,
Shumway,
man.
you're right. That's Doug Selcher. That's who we're talking about.
Yeah,
That's
you know,
Hey, so
I mean,
you guys have fought teams in all the different ways, right? Or have coached in many different ways. So what were
Mhm.
some of the best, like we can say, were some of the best team fights, or what was the difference? Oh, we lost him. We'll get him back. What was
He'll be
the
back.
difference? Yeah. What was the difference in the 5-man and then when it transferred to 3-man? You know, what were some main differences for you? We go to Richard. So first,
Honestly, I just enjoyed the
I mean,
5-man more.
yeah,
Just
you
like it was
enjoyed-
more camaraderie. It was more suspense in the fights. You had more fights, so I personally enjoyed the 5-man teams.
I enjoyed the 5-man team too.
And the beauty of the 5-man teams for us, where Anthony and I sit, is that so many of them were international.
right.
You know, so it's fighting against different international teams, and that was always fun.
Yeah. Now, when you're going into that international format, like, how do you guys like that? I know, WKC does it one way where it's based on wins, Anthony, you've coached in WKU and WMA,
Mhm.
new leagues and stuff and different ones. Waco, what is that experience like coaching, fighting in those international with the different rules, like?
Well, I know for WKU, when I was a part of that, it was total points. Not, like 2 fights to 1 fight and nothing like that. No, it was total fights. Now with the new organization, the WMAC, I think it goes by wins. That's what I think it does.
So similar to
I think it goes.
WKC.
Really, is it wins?
And
Yeah, I think it
Waco
might be
changed, right? At one point, they used to be, right? That you're.
It
I was
used to
just
be
gonna say.
wins and then they changed.
John Payton, myself, and Chris Rapole went over to Italy to do a Waco Pro team fight. And unfortunately, John and Chris, and I've been bugging Chris Rapole for this damn tape, and I haven't got it yet. But John and Chris went out and lost, right? We were down double digits. I got lucky and went out and beat my guy by the double digits to
Wow.
win by points. But
Wow.
Ilno Falzoni, the president of Waco at the time, said, nope, you guys lost because you lost the first 2 matches. And I said,
Okay.
If that was the case,
Wow.
then you'd have never fought the last fight.
I said, why did I go out and even fight then?
Right.
And he says, Richard, it's good for the Americans to win in America and the Italians to win in Italy.
Wow.
He told me that. He told me that straight up.
Politics.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
That's-
That was horrible.
Yeah, that was
But,
horrible.
but politics is just all over the place. You just have to make an attempt to beat it, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You know, that's the
Hey,
thing.
I want to go back because you mentioned something, Mr. Price. You mentioned something. You said, best coaches, Mount Rushmore. I mean, I kind of want. Now I'm curious.
Yeah.
What would
You
your
asking
Mount
me?
Rush-
You asking me first? Okay.
Let's
Well,
go.
Mal, I
Yeah,
want to know both of your guys.
I
What would your
would-
Mount Rushmore of coaches be?
Man, Chuck Merriman, man. I'm gonna tell you, man. He was like Richard said. He wouldn't tell you how to. Okay, I want you to throw a side kick. I want you to throw a back fist reverse punch. He would let us fight our fight.
We coached each other basically.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, he was the rule. He was the rules guy. That's pretty much. He was the administrator,
Kind of like what Mike
if you want to call
Mike
it.
P was touching on.
Yeah,
Love it.
he didn't. Richard, I can't even think. Did he ever tell you, like, Richard, you didn't throw a reverse punch or something?
Never.
No, he never. Right. Same
Never.
thing with me with
He
kicking
left
or
that to
whatever.
us.
Right. He left it up to us. We pretty much, like he said, coached each other. But but he was an incredible man. And when I mean incredible, and I have to put Skipper in there too, because if it wasn't for Skipper, it wouldn't have been no Atlantic Transworld Oil team anyway. Let's just be real
That's
about it.
true.
Skipper was the catalyst for that, and he brought Coach Merriman along because they were dojo mates, But
Under Peter Urban, yep.
Under Peter Urban, but I would, him, Chuck Merriman, Hector.
Who else you got?
Hector, Don Rodriguez was. I guess I get a little bit of my coaching from Don Rodriguez a little bit, I guess. That intensity. Don would, when I was on John Paul Mitchell, Don would be, hey, P, I want you to do, that kind of take your head. I never forget one time he grabbed me by the side of my head and was shaking me like this. Hey, P, I want you to do it. I'm like, yeah. And then you had KA to slap you on your butt, and that, which, or hit you upside the head, which makes you dizzy or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, now wait. It's funny you mentioned that. Like you said, you get some of your coaching. It just baffles me sometimes. Why? There's all these teams. Why are you not coaching a team? Do people not understand?
Well, I do. I coach. I was coaching the WKU and
I know that.
and the
WMAC.
But you talking about America? To be honest with you, and I don't know if Richard would agree with me on this or not. I love doing the international stuff. I really do, because they don't care who you are, what your reputation is. You have to send a good squad out there to win. And the fighters that you have on your team will respect you because you have that what's the word? That incentive and that grind to win. Probably the reason why, in America that I don't have a coaching position is because I'm too controversial. I don't take BS from people, especially from the promoters.
Well, there's a lot of controversial coaches.
Well, but me, I got too much of this, because I'm not gonna lie to anybody. I'm
But
gonna
that's
tell you
the
the
thing.
truth.
It's like some guys don't like to be told what to do. Let's just be straight. Some guys don't like to be told what to do. But at the same time, and I could totally see, and I could see you. Let's just put me and you, right? I could see you getting mad at me because I look back at some videos of my fights going, oh, man, there was a lot of mistakes there. Oh my goodness. Right. So I could totally see that. And I could see you getting upset with me. But in the end, like, you'd be like, where's it coming from? It's not coming from someone who doesn't care, right?
Well, all you got to do is ask Jotty. When Jotty came to Cincinnati, I told him he sucked.
Stories about that.
I told him he sucked.
He sucked. Yeah.
If he's on here, he'll tell you. that I
He,
told him he was when we were at the Diamonds that one year, he came and was bugging the hell out of me and Richard. I mean, I'm getting ready to fight, and he like tugging, like, "Hey, I want to train," and I didn't know who he was. Richard, did you know who he was?
Well,
I
he
didn't know
was
who
no
he
one.
was. Right, he was no one. But let me tell you about him. When he came to Cincinnati, he paid his way, came to Cincinnati, and yes, I did take him through some crazy stuff, unorthodox stuff that probably nobody would ever do, stuff that I used to do just to get ready for. Because Coach Merriman would say, I can tell you, there's one thing about Coach Merriman. I'm flipping this a little bit.
oh,
Coach
oh,
Merriman did not tell. He told us, I can tell who's been working out and who hasn't been working out. He would say that. So in my mind, I'm like, man, I don't want to lose my spot. So I'll get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go run. You didn't have to tell me to go to the gym to train. And probably Richard the
Right.
same way. You had to
Well,
tell me.
the thing with Merriman too, though, Anthony, with the contracts we signed at the end of the year, we had performance evaluation.
Right.
So we had to sit down with Coach Merriman and Skipper, and part of the thing was your conditioning, because at our training camps were rough.
Rich,
They
don't even bring that up.
take us
Remember,
to the ringer, and
we
then
fell
the
asleep.
hotel we were in. What were we on? The second or third floor?
We were
with no elevator.
We were on I think it was the third floor, because I think KA and them was on the second.
With no
Yeah,
elevator.
yeah.
So
Oh,
after
man.
working out like madmen, we had to climb these stairs to get up.
that would be the worst right there.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget we overslept.
Remember,
we overslept.
That was in Bermuda.
Right. And
Yeah, that
remember
was
the
in
meeting.
Bermuda.
And the
Yeah.
meeting,
And he didn't find us.
We were sliding in, trying to
He
hide.
slipped into the meeting, and he looked at us, and he said, "This one's on me." It's like, "Oh, thank you, Coach."
Yeah. Please don't take that bonus money.
Yeah, don't take our money.
But just getting back to it, that I mean, and I'm not trying to blow Jottie's head up either, but Jottie wanted to learn, and he didn't care how he was going to get it. I'm serious. He didn't.
Well, no, even Mike is in here saying you have to hear Jottie tell that story, because Mike and I were there and we were sitting just face to face with him as he's telling the story. Jottie's one of the better storytellers that martial arts has, by the way. All right. He is. He just really is. There's a lot of great storytellers. Jottie's a great one. And he tells that story too. And I'm like, there's no way you did that. He had
Yes,
you
I
do what?
did. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
We went on a track. We went on a track over at Woodward High School, which is, at the time I lived in a community called Avondale, and Woodward was right down the street. So when he did, I had him to do front kicks around a racetrack, not a half a racetrack, but all the way around. I mean, I took him through, had him run the stadium steps, and then I got on my bicycle and ran while he was kicking. I ride my bicycle around the track. And then my wife got pissed off. She got so freaking mad at me. She said, "You're going to kill him." I said, "That's what I'm trying to do." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm trying to kill him." I said, "Look, I didn't get it easy. Why should anybody else get it?" She said, "But look, you done been out here for like 3 hours and it was hot." So the crazy part about Rennie said, "Well, I'm getting ready to go home and start fixing dinner." So I got on my bike and I told Johnny, "I'm heading home. You have to jog home." It was about a mile. It was about a mile and a half, almost 2 miles from the place. When he got there, he just like passed out in my living room. But let me tell you what this fool did.
And he was there for days too, right?
Yeah. And let me tell you what he does. When he finally gets in the house, he's drenched. He just collapsed in the living room. I said, "Man, get up out of my living room. You'll sweat at my carpet." So I had to go to work. He went down and got all these videotapes of us, Budweiser, Atlantic, and all them fights. Stood up, sat up all night watching that. When I got up to go to work in the morning, he had tapes all over the place. and just I guess he fell asleep right there watching all them videos of all of us, Nasty, Richard, Terry, Tony, Mafia. I mean, it was incredible. And then I used to work out. We used to fight. Now, when the first time when he came to Cincinnati, after we did that, we had a fight class. I invited back then. We used to have a nice, good group of guys that would come and work out with me. We had about 20-some guys. I had Jotty stay up and fight all of them guys. So like 26 or 27 guys. And then I was the last one, Richard. So I was fresh. I tried to whoop his ass. I did. I did. But let me tell you, it didn't stop him from coming. Because, you know, at first it was like this. And all of a sudden, look, Richard, it started doing like this.
Yeah, he
Then
wanted
it was
it.
like this. And then he started whooping my ass. Look, man, this is Johnny up here now. He started whooping my behind. So then I said, man, I ain't fighting you no more because you beating me up all the time. So, but you talking about somebody with condition. When I first met him, he didn't have no condition. But man, his condition went up 300%. I'm serious. And then he would go up to Michigan or whatever and move around with those guys. And Richard, I mean, it was incredible. I mean, him and Chris McBride were two of the guys that were the most conditioned guys that I've ever had a chance to work out with and train them. And they couldn't stand each other either.
Yeah.
You know, they could not stand. When Chris McBride found out that Jotty Tension was working out with me, he got so mad. He didn't come to class for about a month, really. He was pissed. He's like, you shouldn't be working out with him. Sir, you didn't. But hey, you know.
Yeah.
But getting back
I
to the
remember those
coaching
fights
position,
too. Yeah.
You know, but getting back to the coaching position, you know, I'm good. You know, I like what I do on the international stuff. You know, I love, you know, when I go to some local tournaments, which has been a while, you know, some guys do ask me to coach them or whatever it is. I mean, it's all good. You know, I enjoy what I do now. I'm, staying home with the grandbabies. You know, I love all of that now. I mean, the traveling and stuff. You know, when Rich, think about it. We used to travel so much. We would be gone like 3-4 times a month. You know, now since, you know, I done got older now, I love being home with the family, you know, especially now since my wife has been going through this cancer stuff, you know, helping her, you know, being around her, making sure she's getting everything. She's got me doing everything, by the way, Rich. Everything. Everything. I'm even washing clothes. Everything.
Good for you, though.
Yeah.
Good for you. I know how hard that young lady has worked.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So she's getting back on her feet and everything. But I love, you know, I've learned a lot from a lot of different coaches. Don Rodriguez and Hector were like the really intense guys. Maybe that's what I get it from. Like you said, Coach Merriman was kind of like he would get intense when he had to get intense. But Don Rodriguez, Coach Rodriguez, and Coach Santiago, Hector Santiago, those were the two guys that really, because sometimes you need to light a little fire under people's behind. You know, I'm different. Like Richard said earlier, different people need to get coached by different things. Sometimes they can't take the script. Sometimes people take it personal. I didn't take it personal when those guys, Richard and Nasty and all them guys got in my ass. I didn't take it personal because why? They wanted to elevate my fighting and wanted to make me better. But some people take it personal. And I advise every competitor out there that's listening to this, you know, if you want to strive for the stars, sometimes you can't take it personal. You know, you can't take it personal. But a lot of these fighters, they get into their feelings. And, you know, it is what it is. So go ahead, Rich.
So,
That's
Mr.
my
Plowden. So, Mr. Plowden, first, let's hear your guys that, you know, your coaching guys. And then I want to go back to a question that I think Robert put up. Who is the toughest person you've had to coach across from?
Ooh.
I would say with the Mount Rushmore, I share with Anthony Don Rodriguez for me and Chuck Merriman, of course. But Mike Conroy is an answer to both questions for me, too.
Yes, sir.
You know, Mike Conroy with Team Elite had such stellar athletes and did a fantastic job with them. You know, so I think that Mike is definitely needs to be mentioned as one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you got Don Rodriguez. Sorry. Mike
Chuck.
Conroy.
Chuck Merriman, Mike Conroy.
Chuck.
So Mount
There's one more.
Rushmore is 4.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
I never really had a chance to coach against Mike Conroy, Rich.
Yeah.
You know, I know he's a good coach and everything. Don't take people don't take it personal if I didn't mention you or whatever it is. But I
Right,
never
same
had a
here.
coach. I never had a coach against him before. Now I have coached against Richard, which I thought it was good and interesting when we was at the Capitol one year. You know, when I was on K Talk. You know, we had a chance to compete against each other there. I thought it was very, very good. You know, they pulled it out on us. You know, which I thought it was a good. You know, Richard. Man, I got to put Richard Plowden in that coaching as a good coach also.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
But
Can you
that's
put
my-
yourself?
that's my
You can't put
four.
yourself. So you got to pick
No,
somebody
I
else.
can't. No, I didn't pick myself. No,
Yeah.
no, I don't.
No.
No, I would never pick myself. Yeah.
So
Never.
Anthony, Mr. Price's is Plowden, Hector, Rodriguez, and Chuck Merriman, and
You
we're
got to
waiting on
look at the
last.
person's record. You got to look at their record.
Yeah. Yes,
When
sir.
Richard
Yeah.
was with Impact,
And with that being said, even though I'd never fought for him, Hector had some warriors.
yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and Hector loved. I shouldn't say past tense because some of his posts today. Hector Santiago loves Metro.
Yes, he
Yes.
does.
He does. He does. Yeah, no, that's a great
Yeah.
one. Hector is a great one as well. You know, there's so many, especially the past 20, 30 years as well. You know, you look internationally, you know, one that always gets brought up.
Oh, come on, killer.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got just the way that he's brought those
Esteban
guys.
is special.
But you got to look at their record also. Like, when, and not trying to toot Richard's horn or anything, but his teams, they won all the time, pretty much. You know,
Everything.
And they were like, you know, it was the All-Stars and them, and, you know, they were like the two best teams. Come on, let's just say it. Let's just be real about it. And guys like myself who was looking up at them guys, was like, man, we want to beat them. You know, it was like that when I was trying to, you know, when I first got on the national circuit. Those guys were the ones that I wanted to try to beat because they were, everybody wanted to beat Nasty because why, Richard? He was the top dog. You know,
Right.
I was trying to get him all the time, you know, trying to get him. But, you know,
There are
you got to look at those guys' records.
European coaches. You know, Esteban Corral is one of them. Dave Heffernan from Ireland is one of them.
Ireland, he's a great one.
Sean Elliott.
Yes, Sean, got to put Sean Elliott
He's
in there.
very
Oh,
good.
yes. Yes.
And really didn't do it for very long. But Gregorio DeLeo, he was good. And he was just too young because you were like, didn't you just fight like 2 months ago? But you're out here coaching and all your guys just won championships. I thought you were just supposed to be. So, and he had a little stint, but, you know, he was good.
Let me back up for a second, though, Alex. You asked Anthony why he doesn't think he's coaching now, but you have to stop and think, too, the number of opportunities aren't out there, right? Because in order
they
to get
are, but they're not. I know that.
In order to get Anthony Price to coach a team, you have to give him
somebody
a bus
else has
ticket.
to not coach.
You know, it takes something. So the number of teams that could, quote unquote, afford an Anthony Price are slim and far between.
Yes, sir.
Especially as he discusses enjoying his weekends. What'd you say, Alex?
There's one I'm thinking of.
Oh,
I'll say it off there. I'll say it off there.
Okay, you're gonna say it off there. Well,
yep.
Trust me. I don't get that. I don't get any.
Not
calls.
that you're
It's
vying
okay.
to do
No,
anything like that.
You know, I mean, if it would happen, maybe I would have to talk it over. I had to talk it over with my wife and my daughter.
Right now you can't
Nancy,
do it.
Anyway. Yeah, right now, you know, this the one time a year, which is the international stuff. Yeah, you know, that's
and that's just a different thing. And that's something, like you said, you
yeah. Like
enjoy
my
it.
wife just,
and you
hey Richard,
pursue-
that's what Renee just said. I'll be wanting you to go.
Get out of
Talking
here.
about get out of the house.
Hey, get
But
out
you
of the
know,
house, Karate Man. Karate
right.
Man, get out of the house.
But Richard, you know, if the opportunity was to present itself, I would think about it. But you know, it ain't like you said, man. You know, a lot of people can't Richard, you know this. A lot of people can't handle me because they get into their feelings. You know, sometimes you might need to light, you know, a little fire underneath somebody's butt just to get them going. You know, and it's not anything personal. You build a person down and then you build them back up. That's what you do. And you know, if you suck, you suck. And I'm going to tell you, you suck. If you're good, if you Really says he look at me and Richard as me being hot water. Richard is the cold water, and I'm the hot water.
Yeah, she's always said that though.
She's always said that.
Always said that.
Makes sense.
But
It
you
makes
know, I
sense.
mean, it's so you know, it's. I don't get me wrong. I enjoy coaching. I really do, especially individuals that want to learn a little. My little stuff is about this big, but you know, it's been proven to win. You know, I mean,
Osborne Jr., you're right.
you know, I enjoy it, you know, and I do enjoy coaching. I enjoy coaching people that want to be coached, you
Yes,
know,
sir.
because
Yes, sir.
Well,
you get some.
let's talk about some other things because Jeff brought up a topic that we could talk about that is awesome with the fantasy like situation.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, let's
think
do
we
that
need to
to-
go there, Jeff.
All right. So you want this one that all right. So here's the deal. We kind of said, just pick your 5-man team that you have coached, and it cannot include anyone named Plowden, Richard. All right. That's the
Oh,
rules I'm
that's
putting
not
with you.
fair.
I know.
That's fair.
Hey, I was trying to
Sure
give
that's
other
not
people
fair?
some love.
What are
like
you
that's-
talking about? Or today? You talking about today's fighters?
No. I'm
Or
just saying right now,
yesteryear?
this wasn't really fancy. This was more of something a little different. But what I was saying, I want Richard to pick a 5-man team of people he's coached before
Oh,
that
okay.
that can't include. Let's just not include, Avery and those guys right now.
Okay, well, let me ask you this though. When you say
Yes, sir.
that I've coached before, does that mean that they were in my team, or I've coached them before?
Oh,
That's
see,
a great
there's
one.
no, that comes from a great coach, trying to make sure he knows the rules, right? Kind of getting his way a little bit. All right. They were on a team that you had or your school. Yep. Not that you've coached them at WKC, because that could be anybody,
No.
or
I won teams on the West Coast with Raymond Daniels, Mike Pombero, and Ryan Huntley, I think it was. So of course Raymond will be one of the first names I throw out there. But individuals who are on teams that I coach, I'm going to go with Jotty Tension.
Yeah, I was gonna put him too.
Yeah, with Jotty, Ross Levine. Oh, Brian Plimple for sure.
Yeah. God, that would be so good.
Jason Grenier.
I kind of thought that one would come.
And then I'm going to, as my 5th, off the top of my head, I'm going to say Carlos Tierney.
Oh, okay. I like it. Now let's do it late. And again, see how I'm not gonna say that's easy, but that's so awesome. And you didn't even have to include Avery. You know what I mean? Like that's what I mean.
No. But ladies, you step back. You say 3 ladies. I got Gina Thornton, I have Veronica Solomon, and Regina Thompson.
Yeah, and then you know what? You got someone who I think is just one of the most underrated of all time, and that's Tara Van Dusen.
That's what I was about to say. I was about to say Tara. Yeah.
I mean,
she was a monster.
She beat everyone in her generation multiple times, besides Nikki, but she only got to fight her like twice really at that time. And she beat her once and then lost to her at her last fight. Right. So it's like Come on now, like, and that pissed Nikki off so bad. Oh man, that was that. Oh man, that was. I remember. I mean, I was on CJB, and I just remember, like, you never really saw that. Well, you didn't see Nikki lose very often, right? So when that happened, it was like, whoa, all right, and it was like, all right, we're getting her down. South Carolina. Yeah, we're getting her down South Carolina. I'm going to beat her in my hometown.
What's interesting though, Jeff, Tyra has a condition where she's prone to seizures.
Mm-hmm.
And with that fight, they had the lights flashing at them.
Mm.
Yeah, and she had me go and have them stop the lights because she didn't want it to disrupt anything.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, that's to me. Yeah.
That was just crazy to me. Like that team you guys had. That's something I missed too, because 3 women teams back then on NBL was really cool, and we can't get it now. But I don't know. I just thought, like, just some of the teams that we had were amazing. I mean, you just talk about, like, okay, yeah, you had Claire and Nikki on your team, but who was your third? Stephanie Flowers. And we were like undefeated for 2 years. And people were like, wait, what? The Forms girl? Yeah. We beat everybody.
She wasn't bad.
That,
she was pretty good.
Yeah, she wasn't bad at all.
She played her role right, and she knew what she
did.
That's
perfectly said.
And it was great, So
who people don't talk about also is Marielle.
Yes, Marielle.
She was good.
Yeah, she was good.
Yep. Oh man. All right. Anybody? Let's see. I don't know how to preface. Yours is a little different there, Anthony. You know what? Let's do. All right. Let's do a 5-man team of people that you faced in the 90s. I know.
Oh.
Random. It was like we got.
You said in the 90s? Yeah,
in the 90s.
In the 90s?
In the 90s.
That I face?
Yes, sir.
Guys you fought. You're going to say, like, listen, I fought this guy, but I'm going to pick him. I want him on my team. You had to have fought him. This is a good one, Jeff.
Pedro Xavier. I'll take Pedro any day. Pedro, Kevin Thompson, Steve Anderson. Believe it or not, I would take Drew Kristen. You remember Drew Kristen?
Oh, of course.
Richard.
Of course, from California. Somebody mentioned him on the last podcast.
Yeah, Drew. Yeah, because me and him had battles.
So that's
the 5th
4.
one.
Well, then you could be the 5th.
No.
Oh, no, it's right. You got to coach it. That's right.
Oh, okay. I got to coach these guys.
Yeah.
That's what you said. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. The 5th one. I mean, I got 2 lightweights, right? Lightweight. I got I got Kevin and Pedro. And I got Nasty.
Nasty and Drew.
I thought you were going to say Tony Young.
Give me Tony. I got to take Tony. I could put Tony out there with a heavyweight, believe it or not.
That's why I thought that.
Tony was the first super lightweight to ever win a major grand championship.
Yes, I was big Tony. Yep. Tony. Yep. And the 5th one.
That was 5.
That is 5.
That was 5.
Oh, that is 5? Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
What about my ultimate?
Now 3 ladies from the 90s.
It was a bunch of from the 90s. Can it be 80s and 90s?
Yeah, let's do it.
Good for it.
Oh my God, Nikki Carson Lee would be my first one.
Yes.
Nikki Carson, Linda, and probably I had to pick Shavella.
Shavella Aaron, Linda Denley, and Nikki Carlson Lee.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna beat that squad right there. I don't think so. And then my other fighter. Wait a minute, my other fighter.
Yeah.
Let me take one of them out. I gotta take Regina. Well, Rich already took Regina, right? Regina
Yeah.
Thompson. Can I have her too? So I
You
gotta
can
say
have her
Regina.
too. She was a great fighter in the 90s, even
Hey,
in the
yeah, I gotta say
in
Regina. Because Regina, I coached her before. She's coachable. Yes, I agree.
Very,
Regina, very coachable.
very coachable.
Take one of them out and put her in. So if I had to take one of them out and say I got a crazy one in there, so let me take Shavella out and put Regina in there, and use Shavella as my alternate.
yes, sir.
No, I mean I'm not trying to act crazy. I mean talk crazy. Is this Richard? She's crazy, right? See, he ain't gonna say it.
No, come on, man. She got banned. So of course
Wow.
you know,
Yeah. Great fighter though, but
tough.
boy, yes.
Tough.
Training camp.
Oh man.
Oh,
Regina is a good
her,
coach. Yeah.
her and Cheryl Nance.
Yeah. Training
Oh
camp.
man.
Yeah.
I have another
All right.
question. Speaking of going in the
One more.
past, and I think this one's a really good one. What is a piece of advice that you would have given a fighter who's not in the game anymore that you wish you would have been like, I wish you would have just, but never really had that time to a fighter who was really good, but didn't get to that point. But you feel like, hey, if this fighter would have done this, they were really good, but if I could have had something, I would have told them to do this.
I got about maybe two or three. One of them is my daughter, Boo Boo. I got to put Boo Boo in that category, but I was the fault of that. I put too much pressure on her.
She was good.
You know, she could have done some things out here, and I'm not saying it because she's my daughter. Her and Morgan used to fight against each other.
Yeah, I'm going to
and
co-sign that. He beat Morgan.
They used to fight.
Yeah, they go back and forth.
I used to. But a lot of that was my fault because I kind of put a little bit too much on her, more than what she was on. I was too hard. I was too super hard. Anybody else? You said that it's
You
not
got to
out.
doing
It's
Jotty
not out.
workouts.
Yeah, she got a lot of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not saying that she couldn't handle it. It's just I scream. I'm gonna just say this. I screamed and holler at her too much, Richard. I did too much. You know, I was, and that's my fault. You know, that was. If I could turn back time, I would be totally different. Handle her with with gloves on. I would. Not saying that she couldn't, that she couldn't handle it back then. It was just I was just too hard. Think of somebody else. I can't really think of anybody else other than
that's
my
a tough
daughter.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is.
All right. Who do you think, sir? Anybody else? You got?
Yeah, I can't really think of anybody else other than my daughter.
Okay. And Mr. Plowden?
I can't
You
think
have
of anyone.
somebody?
I mean, I really have to stop and think about that.
That's a good question.
That is a good
You
question.
mentioned earlier a few people though that you said, you know what, like this person could have been something, but they had like
Richard Stone, I think could have been very good.
You even said Troy Sexton, he could have been better, but he had some, what is it do you think those things are? Or
well, one, I think that it's not a whole hell of a lot of rewards for doing this.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you
Right.
stop and you look at the big picture. At some point in time, life kicks in.
Right.
And you start looking at prioritizing and being able to spend your weekends away from home. You have a job. Today you have to get to a tournament on Thursday because things start so early on Friday. So it just, the whole schedule thing helps mess things up for some individuals. And, it's the whole risk reward. At the end of the day, well, at the end of the day, what's going to happen? Now, Anthony and I, again, we were blessed to be part of a situation that was brand new. All of a sudden, you have folks paying your way to go places, and then you can leave with a little bit of change in your pocket. That was different. you know, as I mentioned on one of the other shows, you don't have a lot of sponsors today paying for everything.
Right.
Right. So if you have to pay your flight and possibly your hotel, then the entry fee, what the heck?
Right.
You know, just being no, I won't go there, but yeah, it's not much in it. So
Right.
you
And
have to
not.
prioritize that.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
this
it's
weekend
not.
I was just saying I got to talk to one of those sponsors.
Go ahead, Jeff. What?
Well, I was just saying I got to talk to one of those sponsors this weekend. I was talking to Century. Century was there at the Waco USA, and they were just explaining, you know, like how this all works, how much it is just for them to do what they do. And, you know, and then people want more, and then other teams, and wondering how this certain other person takes care of 15 teams. And it's just like, yeah, and that's just gear. And he's like, yeah, I know. And it's just different, you know, and it's a lot. And a lot of times they aren't even appreciated either, you know, for what they do. Like I noticed that as well. And they're like, I mean, just finding out some of the ways to be a sponsor of certain leagues and what they have to do just for that is outrageous to me, just to be considered so that way you can wear their gear at a tournament.
Oh,
you know?
Jeff, you're speaking my language. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It
but
is.
Again, I'll say this. You know, Jason Chen went through that in order to have people wear his gear in Europe. You know, there was like a licensing fee that an organization expected just so that they could wear his gear. So that, you know, that it's just we unfortunately, especially with exposure,
that's
those
crazy.
of us involved in the sport, we compare ourselves to other real sports, and that's the first mistake. That's the first mistake. You can't compare yourself to other things. We can, as I said in one of the other shows, we can't compare ourselves to pickleball. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
But it's wonderful to those of us who love it. Let's just embrace it, do the best we can with it, and you know, not worry about whether or not we're as popular as tennis or, you know, things that are way out of our league.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy how, you know, you looked on ESPN, watching ESPN, and you see that what is this? Some kind of pickleball. What is it?
Cornhole.
Yeah, cornhole. Rennie just said it. Cornhole. Yeah. They got sponsorship and all this stuff. And I'm like, here are martial artists, fighters out there, have to dodge kicks and everything, and can't get nothing.
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
Spectators don't appreciate it, Anthony. It's not appealing. Not visually appealing. Cornhole is something that, you know, you go to your family picnic and they're doing.
And everyone understands.
So, you know, the exposure is so much greater. And that's the thing. That's what we don't understand. We think that oh man, our athletes should be on ESPN, this and that. Who's going to watch? Right?
Yeah.
You know, God bless him. Jesse Ray had a wonderful idea with the virtual fight tour during, you know, but, you know, he didn't get hundreds of thousands of views. It's just, it's not out there like that. We have to appreciate it. We have to support it. We need to sit back and be able to expose it to other martial artists who are in martial arts schools who kick and punch every day. They don't know who we are. They don't know who Baby Murphy is. You know, some kid at the karate school down the street can easily access the internet and watch things. We don't try to reach out to them.
Hey, Richard, I asked a kid at a tournament, do he know who Nasty was? You and some other guys, he didn't even know.
No.
Right.
You know, again, I referenced Charlie Reed the last show. Charlie told me, he said, Richard, you know, what the difference is, these kids don't want to be the top athletes. They just want to be themselves. Right? Because they get on stage, they get an opportunity to do the same things that the adults do. So what's the big difference? Where's the gap? There's no gap. And those individuals should really be the spectators, because you start a tournament. Let's say you start a tournament at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning. By the time the black belts fight at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, those folks are gone.
Yep.
Right? Our individuals who kick and punch should be our built-in audience.
Yes, sir.
And we don't do anything to reach out and help market that. You know, the very first World Combat League show in Texas, I still don't know why, right? But I was contacted and they flew me out there, right? I was one of only 7 people in the television production meeting for that show. And what jumped out at me was that Mike Sawyer, Mike Sawyer wanted to market the WCO to martial arts schools. He wanted to create heroes that the individuals in the schools could look up to, right? From what I understand, Chuck Norris's son wanted to be more like MMA and try to shotgun it, right? Just like MMA. Right. He won. You know, and there was no way in the world to compare with what the UFC was doing at that point in time. But if we had posters to send out in the martial arts studios of some of these champions and things like that, you build interest. We don't have the companies, the equipment companies and the supporters who want to finance something like that. Right. That's the thing.
Yep.
Mike right. Said when somebody cares. I asked Joe Corley once. I said, Joe, when are you gonna write a book? He said, when somebody cares.
And then I mean, as a martial artist, we really should do things like that. You know, like when you were saying that Mike Sawyer wanted to build up like those athletes as heroes inside the karate schools, like that absolutely should be. I mean, I got Chris Carter right back here because I love the Vikings. I got Matt Blair over here. All right. This is Vikings all pros. I know them because I love them because I know everything about the Vikings, right? But I don't know everything about martial arts. And I got a picture of John Worley right there. I got a picture of Scott Masterson right there that I'm pointing at. They're right because this is where I want to be. These are my people. That's who I love, right? It's the same thing. But I think we should have things like that, right?
Alex, you think that the insecure karate instructor around the corner from you is going to have somebody else's picture up in his school?
No, that ain't gonna happen.
They're gonna have a poster of Anthony the Axeman Price in their school, and they can't even teach an axe kick.
It's crazy.
Oh man, that's crazy.
I don't think it was that well played.
That's exactly it, Ben Franklin. What'd you say, Alex?
I said not only was that well played, that was well timed. But let's just look at it like this. Let's just say, all right, Jeff's school, because he's right there. He's in his school. And Jeff's got a picture of the Axeman. Jeff's got a picture of, everybody. But the new person coming in who's been to a couple of karate tournaments looks at that and says, Jeff is now guilty by association in a good way. You can be guilty by association in a bad way. You can be guilty by association in a good way. Just the same. But you are also right. And the insecure karate instructor, which is where a lot of this which is where guys like Stephen Oliver, who was great for promoting martial arts tournaments, his tournament was a big one. People didn't go to his tournament. Then he did a 180 and said, karate tournaments are the devil. I summed it up. There's more to it, but I summed it up.
Yeah.
No, and you know what I respect, Alex? You call them names.
Well, at our school.
The crazy thing about hold on 1 second, Anthony. Crazy thing about Stephen Oliver is what Stephen helps push and promote is his partner is a world champion.
Right.
So his partner is a world champion. And that's one of the first labels that comes before his name. But then, okay, we don't want anybody else to win world championships, but he can't. Come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, at our school, Reedy's got all the pictures of all the old fighters. It's nasty. Tony, Terry, yourself, just goes down the line. A lot of these guys are insecure. That's why.
Oh, ton of them.
Right. That's what I said. Richard, I said, including
Ton
him.
of
But
them.
yeah.
There's a fighter out of Chicago named Pete Hoffman that I used to compete against.
Yeah, I know Pete.
Pete Hoffman once said to me, he said, Richard, a lot of people get in karate because they're insecure. Even after they get their black belts, they're still insecure. And he was right.
Yeah.
Angel, it would be, but it's got to be a concerted effort and a professional effort to really push forward sport karate from a social media standpoint. It just can't be fly by night. There has to be, like I said in the last interview, the way that EFC came in and helped modernize the karate school. We need some PR professionals to come in and help modernize sport karate. We really do.
Sir.
We kick and punch. We're okay at it. But, the whole thing from a marketing standpoint, I look at various productions and I wonder, I'm like, man, behind the scenes, if you guys look and you see the different sponsors, right? You see them on the ring and boxing and UFC matches. You see them on the turnbuckles or whatever, and you wonder, okay, who behind the scenes sold that?
Right.
Because somebody sold it. We don't have people like that.
No,
We're trying to do it. Right?
Yep, we
don't want on the phone trying to get the local pizzeria or something like that to help sponsor us. It needs to be a more concerted effort. But part of that too is being able to work together. We on so many different pages, man.
There we go. That's what I was going to say. It's everyone wants their way of doing it.
They do.
It's just
everybody's got their own agenda.
Yeah,
exactly. Again, it's
everybody has their own agenda. But then I think even if we did have the same agenda, and we don't have the same agenda, not everybody does. I think first, just an acknowledgement, like Mr. Plowden, when you said, like, somebody sold that, right? I mean, sometimes don't you got to look at it and say, maybe you shouldn't be the one selling, right? It's not your best skill set.
That's it.
Yep.
That is literally it. So you find the salesman, right? You find the salesperson because that's not our forte. My degree is in public administration, and I work for a nonprofit. I'm not a salesman. But right
I got my degree in hard knocks.
Well, I mean, we talked about the story with NBL and Boyce and everything, right? That wasn't his best thing, and that was where we lost some things. Now he had some good relationships that he honored very well. Like, honestly, Asian World Martial Arts was a big sponsor for him for many years until things changed, right? And so there's just so much we can get into.
What did he do?
But
what did he do? What did he do with that though, Boyce Lardell?
Yeah, I mean, he had it to where they took
besides screw up stuff.
I believe at that point they were sponsoring the belts.
Listening. Oh, okay. Well, I hope he's listening. I hope he's on.
Oh no, I don't. Boyce is not listening to this.
No, I've tried to get Boyce on the show. He doesn't really want to be a part of it. So
let me respond. Really,
Jeff, I'm gonna say it. Richard, I know you probably won't say it, but I'll say it for you, and I'll say it for myself. He don't want to be on here because he know why. He's the biggest crook. Whatever. I mean, he is. I'm gonna say
my relationship with him was different than that, though. AP, I did not have a bad. Yeah, I didn't have a bad experience with Boyce, so to speak, outside of the fact that he was hard-headed. But in response, Ben Franson said, "Got to show that there's a benefit to the owners, and it's not going to cost them students." Ben, we can't guarantee that because some of these instructors suck.
Yeah.
So some of them are going. Some of them that have their doors closed. Some of them that are cave dwellers who are in the cave need to stay there because they can't teach. They don't know what they're teaching. You watch their students, and unfortunately, because of social media, you can see some of the videos of them just doing basic actions that look like crap. So yeah, they're going to stay in their cave because it will cost them students because they're horrible.
Right. All right. Well, that was good. Well, you know what we've talked about though is like, heroes and the people we look up to. And you know what? The biggest thing is that we got two of those guys right here. And so I really appreciate both you guys for being on. Anthony Price, Richard Plowden, two of
I
my
appreciate
heroes.
it. Thank you.
Not
Thank you.
only
My
people
roommate.
but people that became friends of mine as I got older as an adult and people I look up to. And so, man, that's what it's all about. You guys have both also helped a lot with our show. Richard's been on 3 times now. Anthony, this is your 3rd or 4th time now. So thank you guys.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
No, thank you guys. Thanks to the audience who happens to
Yeah.
be our buddies. Marty Eubanks, you're the man.
The most, as Nasty would say,
Marty on.
The most hated man in
the most
America.
hated man in the Midwest.
Marty Eubanks.
Marty Eubanks. That's what Nasty
Also
used to
one of the
say.
toughest.
Yes. Oh
Yes.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
All
yeah.
right,
All right.
guys.
Well,
Thanks
thanks,
so
I
much.
love it. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. I
Hey,
love
Anthony,
our
give the wife a
relationships
hug
with my
for me, man.
I
relationship
will. I will.
with each of you guys. Please come back again and again. But for right now, this has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. See you guys next week. Thank you.
Peace.